What is going on, folks? Thanks for hitting that download button or that play button, depending on how you're consuming this podcast, to check out a brand new episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade, your one-stop shop for toys, tech, and talk with some assembly required. I'm your host, Rich Butler, and if this is the first time you're checking out an episode, first of all, welcome. Second, real quick, a little bit about what we do here. Toys and Tech of the Trade is an interview series where we sit down with content creators, entrepreneurs, and just awesome folks that are on our radar to discuss the gadgets, the gear, and the tech that they use to run their business, create content, and overall be more productive. Now, when it comes to the toys aspect of the conversation, we embrace toys here in a more general sense. It's not just what action figures are you collecting or Funko Pops or things that you normally think of when it comes to toys, but it's collecting those guitar picks or collecting vintage cars or maybe Hummel figurines. We look at toys in a more generic sense here because it not only allows us to learn more about our guests on a more personal level, but it breaks up a lot of the entrepreneurial and business conversation that we have on this podcast. With that intro out of the way, a couple of things real quick. Obviously, it's been a little bit of time since our last episode. There's lots to discuss with regard to that, but I will be releasing a separate episode covering that and a lot of other things. But I really want to turn over the conversation to this week's guest, who not only brings a tremendous story to the podcast this week, but there's going to be a lot of great nuggets of just wisdom that you can apply not only to your entrepreneurial journey, but your day-to-day life as well. Without any further ado, let's turn it over to this week's guest.
My guest for this episode is also a friend of Press Record Studios, podcaster, martial artist, Taekwondo grandmaster, the one and only Master Joseph Lupo Jr. How's it going, man? Thanks for coming through.
That's an intro. Oh, man. How's it going? That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to come in, kind of get back on
Pleasure's all mine.
Yes, get back on the maiden voyage.
Yes.
So our podcast, real straightforward. We got our origin story. We're going to learn a bit about you, your business, things you rely on to run your business. We're going to go into the hot seat and then reach one, teach one, and then we'll send you on your way. It's nice and easy.
Let's get going.
So let's talk origin story. Obviously, you're a Taekwondo grandmaster. Taekwondo's in your lineage. And I kind of want to start there because your introduction to the martial arts came courtesy of your dad, but it also laid the foundation for your business.
Yes.
So I want to start there where the origins of your business and also the origins of you as an entrepreneur, but also a martial artist.
Yes. Well, I'll keep the origin very, very short.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I started martial arts under my father at the age of 3. My father owned the school. So as young as I can remember, it was always my goal. It was always my dream to have my own school. Fast forward, I graduated college. I went to Baruch. I got a degree in marketing and advertising, which was very important because it gave me the knowledge of behind the scenes. Because I learned through my father's school, it's not just about kicking and punching. There's a whole other aspect, actually more of an aspect, the more tiring aspect. People think when they walk inside my school that teaching is the easy part, is the hard part. No, it's actually the easy part. It's all the business that's required behind it. And Baruch, a business school, most people go to Baruch College to learn business, really, really set the foundation for myself to become that businessman while doing what I love and my passion, which is the martial arts. So in 2010, I took that leap of faith because that's what it takes.
You know, you gotta be able to, you know, put all your eggs in one basket. You know, I come from a hardworking family, you know, blue collar, sort of say. You know, I wasn't born with a silver spoon.
So when it came time to open up my own business, it was really all my eggs in one basket. It was either sink or swim, and there was no way I was sinking.
Well, it's good that you had an academic background and kind of set that foundation. Little backtrack. Who taught your dad the business side, since he was in the school also?
My dad started martial arts with my grandmaster, Moon Sung Lee, in Astoria, Queens, in 1972. And My father was always fascinated with the martial arts. And when he had the opportunity, he opened up a branch school with my grandmaster. Okay. The school flourished. The school did really, really well for many, many years. And then things went a little bit sideways. So it was a good learning lesson for me. You know, growing up in that school, I learned what to do and what not to do. And it definitely helped me when it came my turn to want to open up the business, my approach to it, and everything that was involved. It was good. It was life changing.
So even though you learned martial arts from your dad and you saw him flourish and open a business, was opening your own school first and foremost? What did Master Joe want to be when he grew up?
Oh,
Before being an entrepreneur, what did you want to do?
I wanted my own school. Real as young as I could remember. I always bring back my senior year of high school at St. Francis Prep. And the big project in, wow, I still remember his name, Mr. Speck's business class, was we had to develop our own business. And I already knew what I was going to do. I mean, I want to say as young as 13, 14 years old, I was already telling my parents I want to own my own school one day. Because that was when my father allowed me to start teaching. And I found a love for it. And, you know, when you're good at something, why stop?
Very true.
You know, I saw it as an opportunity at a young age to take something I love and actually not just make it a lifestyle, but actually turn it into a business. So going back to this business class, I got an A on that project, by the way. And I'll never forget, my teacher said to me, "You are the first and probably the last person who's ever going to give me this business model." First time in his all his years of teaching, someone handed him a martial arts school, a Taekwondo school. And I mean, I had it down to a T, from tuition to schedules to layouts to merchandise to how to speak to a potential customer. I mean, these are all things I learned literally growing up in that Taekwondo school.
You know, I absorbed training.
I absorbed everything and I put it into a packet, and he was blown away. That A gave me the confidence to go open up a school. I mean, when I graduated high school, I remember going up to my parents and I was like, "Do I have to go to college? Can I just open up a school now?" And it's, "Well, you better go to school." Thank God I did. Thank God I did, because Baruch really introduced me to the real world, you know, because I didn't go to college to go hang out. I went to college to learn. I really treated it like a job because I knew it was preparing me one day to have my own school.
So after you went through college and you had that mindset to embark on that journey, what was the time in between like for you? Were you just laying bricks to prepare you for the school? Were you working jobs that were still preparing you in different ways? You know, walk me through that aspect.
It was this, you figure, 7.5 year gap between graduating school and opening up my own business. I was teaching for other people at the time, martial arts, and I was working in the family restaurant business. So actually, a little backtrack. I did work for Viacom, MTV. It was 8 months after I graduated school. And my whole life, I always worked for my family in the restaurant business or in my father's Taekwondo school. And I never had a boss. I was always really my own boss, or my father,
Right.
you know, was telling me what to do. So upon going to Viacom, it was very hard for me. You know, I'll never forget the day someone told me to go get them coffee.
Oh man.
It I was like, all right, this is what I got to do. Let's go. But then it's happening day after day after day after day. And I'm learning that in that world at that time, we're talking 2002. In order to get ahead, it wasn't based so much on skill and ability. A lot of it was based on kissing ass. That's the best way I could put it.
Yep.
And that's not in my DNA. I don't know how to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't like it. After 8 months, this is probably the wrong thing to do. I don't suggest anyone do it, okay? But my boss told me to go get him coffee. And I looked back at him and said, you know what? Go get your own coffee. And I just left. Wow. I didn't give 2 weeks notice or nothing. It's just, it was grinding at me. It was just making me miserable working for someone else when I knew what I wanted to accomplish. And I never forget, I got home that day. I go, Dad, I was almost ashamed to tell him that I quit because I know he didn't raise a quitter.
Right.
But my dad looked at me and he's like, I'm surprised you lasted 8 months. I thought you were going to last 8 minutes. Like he knew who I was. I don't kiss ass. It's just the way he was as a man. And I always modeled myself after him. So within that gap, after leaving that job, I was in the family business. I was teaching for other people. And it just, I kept begging my parents, actually. I was like, when am I going to open up my own school? And my father always looked back at me and said, you're too young. Right? And I hated that. I hated being told that. I thought I was mature enough. And you know what? He was right. Age in this industry is very important because it's not so much teaching kids. You have to have respect of adults as well. No adult I've learned over the years wants to walk inside of a martial arts school and be taught by a kid. Right? I'm still a kid at that time. And when I opened my school, I was 30 years old. And I remember the adults coming in. They were comfortable with a grown adult teaching them. Even those that were older than me, they were okay with it. But I understood my father's point. So I feel I did open up the school at the right time, at the age of 30. And he was 100% correct not to rush into it. I made my bones, so to say. I did it the hard way, not the easy way. It wasn't handed to me. No. I sweat and I worked for it. Much like, that chef in the kitchen. I always bring up this analogy. Nobody walks inside of a kitchen and automatically becomes a chef. You got to wash the dish. You got to wash the dishes. Chef. You got to peel those onions. You got to cry a little bit.
Hell yeah.
And it definitely, that 7.5 years humbled me. It made me appreciate it more and definitely set the foundation the right way come 2010 when I opened up my own school. Thanks.
So we fast forward now. You open the school. Tell me about the day you got your first student.
I was very lucky when I opened up because being a lifelong martial artist, obviously I made a lot of connections. And I taught for many, many, many years. And when my father left the school, for many reasons, topic for another day, left the school that he was partners with my grandmaster, a lot of people actually stopped training because we left. And I was always told by these people, the day you open up your own school, we will be there. Very cool. Lo and behold, a lot of, my old black belts, they came and they followed me the day I opened. So I opened and I did have a good 5 students that became 10 to other connections, So I didn't open up with no students. I did have a little bit of a following that came, which helped me out tremendously. But I still needed that white belt to walk in the door. And that was the hard part. I did have my crew, so to say. That was just one class, right? You know, there were many days I would sit at that desk 10 hours waiting for someone to walk in. You know, I knew I was going to have a last class. But I need other classes. And then that first student walked up the stairs. And the best part is she's still my student to this day, almost 15 years later.
That's so cool.
And is one of my highest ranking black belts. And she's a national champion. She's been a national team member. She's been with me since the beginning. And I put so much effort into that girl, and it paid off.
Absolutely.
And it was a sense of accomplishment, like anything, you know, but she's a special because she's the first.
Yeah, I could imagine that as you got that first white belt in, it was reassuring for you because you already knew you were on the right path because you had your tribe of martial artists that came with you. But now you're starting from the ground floor and you're earning a white belt selling.
Yeah.
And once you got the first student in, how long did it take you to get more white belts? What was the timeline for you?
I want to say it was a good, before I started putting money in my pocket, it was a good 8 months.
Wow.
8 months. You know, every dollar I was making was not only going towards bills, was not only going towards living, it went back into the school. You know, I opened up that school with just a map. I stole chairs out of my parents' garage for parents to go sit down. I had a couple of kicking paddles that were nothing fancy and a broken kicking shield. That was it. But by 8 months, now I had a dozen kicking paddles, brand new. I had a few kicking shields. By 8 months, I had my first Wave Master kicking back. You know, I put it back in. Why? Because my mentality was, now that classes are starting to fill up, I want the parents to see that I'm investing into their children. I want them to see that, oh, wow, you know, Master Joe bought this piece of equipment. Oh, wow, Master Joe bought jump ropes for the students. Master Joe put this. Oh, he put that. I wanted them to see where their money was going, that I was actually kind of like reinvesting it, you know? And what did that do? You know, for any student that walks inside of it, let's say a gym, you know, you walk into a gym and you're training there and the equipment's all busted, and then that brand new piece of equipment comes in. You smile, you're like, I can't wait to use that. I can't wait to use that. That's what happened to my students. They couldn't wait to go hit those Adidas paddles, not those generic brand paddles. They couldn't wait to hit that, you know, that leather, cowhide leather kicking shield, not the cheap vinyl one that busted up and stuffing came out of it and the zipper broke. You know, none of that. Now they're hitting quality stuff. They're training with quality equipment. So you as a student, you feel the quality. You get better, right? And it's a trickle-down effect, you know, and that trickle-down effect only made my product grow.
Because they were watching the money at work. Exactly. From bell to bell, so to speak. Money would come in. Hey, we need new shields. Hey, we need new bags. Now, you're doing all this. You're growing the business. You're watching your students flourish. I got to ask, because it happens to anybody. Did doubt creep in at any point in our beginning?
No doubt.
It's amazing.
You can't have any doubt. You can't. And my father always told me this, you know, you gotta go in there, roll your sleeves, and get to work. There's gonna be down days, there's gonna be up days. You gotta be prepared. You have to be smart with how you deposit your money and what you do with your money. Don't go overboard. You know, I spent more money as more money came in.
Right.
I didn't spend more money when there wasn't any money.
Gotcha.
You know, you have to understand that. But you also have to be confident. If you go in there with a loser's mentality, you're going to lose. If you go in there with the mentality of, I'm not going to make it, why even start? You have to be your own number one fan. You can have all the people in the world compliment you, but if you don't believe in yourself, don't do it. You also have to be humble. In what sense? Yes, my father's Grandmaster Joe, I'm Master Joe Jr., and people, call me by that title inside the school. But I tell people all the time, when I open up those doors, what keeps me motivated is I'm a student first. That's first and foremost. And number two, when I open that door, I imagine I only have one student. It's not the ground that keeps me grounded, not the 300 plus that I have today. I don't think about that. I approach every single day like I have one student and I have to grow. And that mentality hasn't left. You can't coast. As a businessman, you can't coast.
There's a lot of lessons to unpack from that, because for a lot of people that they jump into business, especially now, there's more tools accessible now for you to start your business than when we were growing up, than when your dad was starting out, and to think you built 300 students to up to 300 students. And this was before like you had internet marketing, gas book, all the stuff. You were relying on word of mouth and, more importantly, being active in your community.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I've seen the stuff you're doing and you're always active in the community, whether it's, the 9/11 memorial or doing something in the neighborhood. And I feel that that's a lost art form for a lot of businesses. They come in, they put the key in the door, they do their job, and they leave, forgetting that they're still in the DNA of that neighborhood.
Sure.
What made you, or what instilled that value in you? Was it watching your dad or your grandmaster, just being in the community and just how you were brought up, just being a good neighbor?
You can't be shy to put yourself out there. That's number one. I had an advantage because growing up, my family was in the food business, the restaurant business, and we were in businesses, or even the martial arts school, we're in businesses that our door is open to the public. But the public's not just going to walk in by itself.
Right.
You have to be able to step out of that door and bring them in. You can't be shy to approach someone. You can't be shy to go to the local business. Hey, I own the business up the block. Let me know if you ever need anything. Let me know if you ever want to do something together. I will make sure I go to my neighborhood hardware store and go buy my screws and my nails and my things over there. I'm not going to Home Depot. I'm going to make sure I'm going to go eat. Even though my mom owns the restaurant next door, I'm going to make sure I go eat at the Chinese restaurant up the block. Once a week, maybe once every other week, just to show my support. Because one hand will wash another. So that's always been very, very important to me. Everyone in Bayside knows who I am, and they know who my family is. Whether it's on, the community political side, whether it's the Civic Association, which is very strong in Bayside Hills, or the local businessmen in the area. We all have to support each other, because that'll spread the word about. And just to be genuine with everyone. No matter, some people will turn around and say, oh, that's old fashioned. No, that's real. That's real.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, your reputation is going to bring people through your door.
Right. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room that matters more than when you're in the room.
100% in it. And I tell my head instructor that all the time. Your reputation is everything, because you never know who's going to walk through that door. You never know who you're going to bump into. I mean, if any business, let's say a food business has a reputation of being dirty, are you going to go eat there? No. And if a mechanic shop has a reputation of overcharging and doing crappy work for their customers, you're not getting your car fixed though. You know, so things like that I always keep in my mind all the time. You know, it's having the right product but being real. So if you go in with that mentality every day, inside and outside of the business, it's gonna work.
So from the growth side, obviously you have various instructors that have grown alongside you, that you've brought into your family, meaning your business. How do you vet those people when you're looking at, I'd like you to be an instructor, or I feel you're good with kids, I'd like you to teach this class? What's the criteria? How do you gauge that? Because like you said, a lot of these people and you know their personalities and you know how they operate. And I'm sure you look at them and you're like, man, he'd make a great teacher. And I'm sure there might be some times where you're like, don't teach anybody ever. Like, you're great, but you can't. What's your thought process for that? Because yeah, I'm sure it's very difficult, because on one side you're looking at skill, but skill with your hands and feet and skill with the general public are two different things.
Two completely different things. And I learned my lesson the hard way. I have brought in instructors from the outside into my school, but it didn't last. Okay. For many reasons, you know, maybe their ideas were different than mine. And God bless, everyone's entitled to their own ideas. Maybe they felt they could run a better product than I could. God bless. I was in those shoes too at one time, because I did work for someone else.
Right.
And that was a reason why I left. Mm-hmm. So since then, I've made it a point that anyone that's going to teach for me has to grow up with, has to be my student. And I should have paid more attention to the restaurant next door to my mom.
Really?
I should have paid more attention.
Why is that?
The chef that she has in the back, my mom is the head chef in the kitchen, but is slowly, with age, you know, taking a step back. We've had a guy in there now. If the restaurant is open 22 years, Manuel has been there 17.
Wow.
He came as a young kid into the kitchen, working side by side with my mom. And I'll never forget the day my mom was downstairs and someone ordered a dish that's like one of my mom's specialties. The plate came out and the customer ate it and said to my brother, "Please go tell your mom this was amazing." I smiled because my mom didn't cook that dish. Manuel did. So he did it exactly the way my mom wanted. He didn't have an ego to say, "I'm going to make it better," or "I'm going to try to reinvent the wheel." I should have paid more attention to that. Because now, where my school stands today, for instance, my lead instructor, Rocco, for years now, the greatest compliment I get about that kid is, "Master Joe, he sounds just like you." Master Joe, when he speaks, his mannerisms, it's like a mini me. It looks like you. So when I get those compliments about him, and he behaves with the right demeanor, and he talks to the parents the way I would speak to the parents. He talks to a child the way I would speak to a child. It's scary sometimes. It's almost like I created my own enemy. But now the quality control is there.
Right.
Since then, I will only allow my students that have grown up with me, that I see talent in them, to be an instructor. I will only let them teach for me. I'm still very active teaching. I'm not gonna lie. I'm always there. I love what I do.
Right.
You know, but when I do take a step back, now I could take a step back with confidence. You know, a prime example is I travel for my students, whether I've been competing the past 5 years or I'm coaching students. I can now have 100% confidence I could leave my leadership team or my assistant instructors there, and I don't have to worry about a thing. And it's a great feeling to have. But I built it from within, much like my mom built Manuel from within.
It's tremendous to hear that because, you know, you see that. And obviously, like you said, there's a lot of values you instill with a person's mini you. They're a clone of you. And I know you also foster that individuality because along the way, you're learning from them.
Of course.
So with that and the emphasis on you teaching or bringing up instructors to work for you, what's something you've taken over the years from the people you've brought up? What have you picked up from them? What if their lessons may make you a better businessman or a better instructor?
New ideas. Because time doesn't stop for nobody.
Right.
I only get older and they're younger. And I'll pay attention to the things they say, how they relate to the children, because they relate to the children better than me sometimes because they're more connected with what's going on today.
Right.
I'm a father at the end of the day, so I do have children the same age as some of my students, but it's different.
Right.
It's different. They're not parents. You know, Rocco's not a parent. He's a 19-year-old kid. I call him kid, but it's a man. You know, they relate better to the children. And I learn from that because I will relate to them like that too. You know, as the years pass, depending on the student, I can't be old school strict to get my point across. Sometimes you have to meet them at eye level, you know, to make them feel comfortable. And I noticed a lot of times my younger instructors, they will get there faster than I could. And I'm okay with that. I'm humble. You know, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm a student first, then a master instructor. And I learn from my students as much as they learn from me. And I say it all the time, and I have no problem saying that. It shows humility. It shows, you know, that we're forever learning, right? So I will always pick that up for my younger students. You know, whether it's a mannerism, whether it's a figure of speech, whether it's, you know, the cool video game that's going on today or the cool television show. You know, I can't go up to my 10-year-olds and start talking to them about, I don't know, some television show I was watching in the 80s. You know, they're not going to understand. You know, I can't go up to them and be like, hey, have you ever seen Jean-Claude Van Damme? They'd be like, who? Who's that? It's crazy to say that. Like things like that blow our mind. Like, I'll never forget. This is a good story. I had a student. She had amazing flexibility. She was on the floor stretching, and I mean a full 180 split. And I'm like, oh my God, Christina, you're like Gumby. Oh, Christina looked up at me and said, who's that? I was like, whoa. Like, it hit me. You know, I'll make analogies about famous athletes, and this one will blow your mind. I was telling the students how, you know, before Michael Jordan won 6 championships, he lost 7 years in a row. That's right. I had a little kid look at me. The sneaker? I was like, sneaker was a player. You know what I mean? It's like you forget Michael Jordan hasn't played in an actual basketball game in, we're talking about over 20 years. It's crazy to say that. 20 years the man hasn't played.
That's right.
So of course, a 6-year-old is going to look at me and just know him as a sneaker. You know, and Rocco won't use that analogy.
That's right.
He'll use something else that a kid will be like, oh, I got it. I understand. And I'll learn from that.
Has working with so many young students and working with so many parents improved your day-to-day being a parent? Like when Master Joe takes off his uniform and he puts on his dad uniform and he's out there, like, do you walk in almost like a ringer as a parent because you're like, I deal with 87 flavors of kids every day, and I go home to mine and you're a cakewalk because I already know all the tricks. Like, how does that work in the sense of where, Master Joe ends and Dad Joe begins, especially running a business? Because in the back of your brain, the gears are turning for your business.
It's how I said earlier, your door's open to the public. You never know what's going to walk in. And my father always said, you're going to get, part of my French when I say this, everyone comes in with an opinion. And their opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one.
That's right.
And when your door is open to the public, you have to learn how to handle the public. You have to learn how, you're going to get that person who comes in with an abrasive personality. You're going to get that person who it's like pulling teeth to get something out of them. You're going to deal with completely opposite side of the spectrum on a daily basis.
That's right.
And you're going to get that one parent that is militaristic, strict. And then you're going to get that one parent that lets their kid run all over them. And me as a parent, I get to actually learn where to find that happy medium.
That's right.
I actually learn how to be a better parent by seeing the good and the bad and the too compassionate and the too weak and the too strong. I get everything. So I kind of, it helps me when I do put on, that dad hat, how to, again, I look at everything, like a competition. How do we win the match? How do we get past this? Whether it's something small, whether it's getting the right pair of socks for my daughter, how are we going to get there?
That's right.
How are we going to make this work? How am I going to speak to her that she's not going to give me a hard time to put on those socks? How are we going to get there? And I've learned that through being around the public, constantly in the public. I'm not behind a computer screen. I'm actually in people's faces on a daily basis. That's how my business is run. I have to constantly interact with people. And that 100% has made me a better parent.
Are you still doing a lot of the ancillary stuff of your business, or do you try? There's an old expression that says you should always wake up every day going to work trying to fire yourself, because there's a lot of aspects of the business that I'm sure you're just like taxes, but negotiating a lease, this, that, the third. Like, how do you navigate that? Because again, now that you've been doing this for so long, and you saw how your dad did it, how your mom runs her business, and then you run yours, and you're just like, how many things do you feel are just like, we still do that way? Like, how much of your teachings have you modernized over the years, based not just on the fact that techniques have changed, but just the world has changed? Like, how's that been for you, like day to day, like adapting?
Well, it's the same, right? You either adapt or you die, right? You have to move along with the times, and moving along with the times means we have to be technologically savvy. We have to embrace the technology, because you're going to get left behind. That is the hard part of business. Like I said, teaching the martial arts is the easy part. All right. I'm 44 years old. I've been kicking and punching now for 41 years. It should come second nature to me. Teaching a child how to kick, teaching a child how to punch, teaching an adult how to do a proper sit-up, a proper push-up, a proper squat, and so on. This at this point, this is second nature to me. But keeping up with the bills, keeping up with the ever-changing market, keeping up, how to organize it properly to make life easy. Mm-hmm. Those are the challenges. And we have to keep up with it. We have no choice. At the end of the day, you honestly don't have a choice, because you're going to fall behind. And if you fall behind, for some people, it's very hard to get back.
how do you compartmentalize that? Like for instance, I know training a lot of kids and doing also you got to use certifications, you got to do all that. Like, how do you allocate that and still be present for your family, be present for your children, be present for your mom, her business, and the different aspects? Like, how do you structure your day to do that? Because I feel that a lot of times when people are doing that, it's like, let me send out this email while my kid is at practice, or let me do this. Like, how do you juggle that? Because again, even though you have a great team and a leadership team in place, there's certain things that only Joe can do.
Again, I learned that from my dad. One day we're in the restaurant. The pizza guy didn't show up.
Right.
And my dad looked at me, you got to make pizza. That's right. Dad, I never made pizza before. Yes, you what? I learned. When, the flame is put to your ass, you got to go do it. The dishwasher didn't show up. What was it? Close the restaurant because the dishwasher didn't show up? No. You went back there and started washing dishes. My father always taught me a boss should never be ashamed to clean the toilet. Right? You got to do it all. A boss just doesn't sit behind the desk, bark orders. No. You got to be able to do everything. So what that taught me at a young age was how to multitask. You do one thing, we move on to the next. You do another thing, you move on to the next. The first thing I do when I get to my school, besides have a cup of espresso, I will sit down and I will take a Post-it and I will write down everything I need to accomplish on a daily basis. And as my day goes, I start marking it off.
It's very satisfying running that line.
And the one thing you'll never see on that Post-it are the Taekwondo or private training sessions or kickboxing classes I have to teach. Because that's just, it's like the nature. Right? But what I will write on that Post-it is my Jeep's got to get paid today. Call the accountant. Send out an email. Take care of this, take care of that. That's what I will write down. And I do my best to get to everything in a single day. If you are organized, you will find the time. If not just organized technology-wise, but organized within your own thoughts, within your own mind, you could accomplish anything. And you have to do it with a sense of calmness. You can't rush, because if you just keep running, you're gonna bang your head into the wall. At the end, you accomplish nothing. There's the time. There is time. People say, "Oh, I got no time in a day." Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Just sacrifice something else.
Shave off in 30 minutes rolling.
100%. 100%. You hit the nail on the head.
That's one.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody wants to have a 1 hour lunch. Not the owner. No. I'll eat for 10 minutes and get right back to work. That's just the way it goes. It is what it is. You want to have that title of being the boss. You want to have that title of being the owner. You have to be able to do everything.
And you want to lead by example because, again, you're only the chain's only as strong as the links that are pulling it. And if you're there and you're doing that and everybody sees it, like you were saying, your leadership team is watching you, sat there like, well, damn, if he could do it, I can do it.
And that's the quote on my wall when you walk in. A leader leads by example, not by force. And my team is called a leadership team. There's a method to my madness. But I'm lucky that a lot of this was instilled in me at a very young age by a man with a third grade education. Came from the other side, and he just had an incredible work ethic. And I always said to myself, if I could be half the man he was, I would be successful. That's how hard he worked.
Well, I mean, you're talking about running a school, raising a family, running the other business, being a support system for your mom, and now you're in the same you're again similar shoes because now you're a support system for your spouse, for your kids, for your community, and I'm sure it weighs on it. And then one thing I've come to see knowing you for the time I've known you is you're still challenging yourself. Like a little piece you just recently certification, personal training out. Now you're personal training. You keep moving the goalposts for yourself, which to some people that's scary, but I think that for you it's helping you continuing to be a better leader.
Oh yeah.
Do you feel sometimes like, well, let me rephrase that. Are there times when you say, I'm not doing enough? Had that crept in sometimes where you're like, it has, right?
All the time, actually. I always say to myself, I'm not doing enough.
Even though,
And that's what motivates me to do more.
yep, you got a 4 a.m. day, because I've seen, and you're out there and you're just like, oh, I haven't done enough. And you'll go to bed at midnight or whatever, and you're just like, back at it.
It's just in my DNA to be a go-getter. I learned from the bat. I can't, idle time is the work of the devil. I always want to be busy. It's just who I am. Some people think it's the amount of espresso I drink a day. Really only the first espresso gets my,
Get your go. The rest love the taste. Yep, the rest is just.
yeah, I could drink an espresso and go to sleep.
When did you drink your first one?
Oh,
What age were you when you drank your first espresso?
I was a kid.
Really?
My father, I said we had restaurant business, but prior to the restaurant business, my father's main business before opening up a school, he owned coffee trucks
Nice.
that used to go around Greenpoint, Brooklyn to all the factories. And I was a young kid making the coffee in the morning.
Oh, man.
So by osmosis, you're just like, coffee's been around me my whole life. Like I said, that's why I'm immune to it. So people think that's what gets me up and going. I'm like, no.
Nope.
My family was built on coffee. So for me, it's drinking that cup of coffee is as much pleasure, it's very sentimental to me, right? Because that's where we started. That's why it's so important for me to have that cup of coffee before I start my first class. So that's where my love for that came from. That's pretty cool. That's runs through my veins. But yeah, it's man. At the end of the day, you gotta love what you do.
If you love what you guys out work.
It's not work. I'm proud to say I don't have a job.
So I hope you don't have a job. You have a passion.
I have a passion. It's not an easy one. It does require a lot of sacrifice. I put a lot of hours into the day. The 8-hour workday doesn't exist in my life. And unfortunate that my wife also comes from the same style of background because her family owned a pizzeria. And if anyone knows the pizzeria life, that's a 7-day-a-week operation.
That's right.
So she saw her parents go through it. So she understands what I do. It's hard sometimes, but
It's a great support.
she either understands or she's got no choice to understand because this is who I am. And I do make time for the family, though, which obviously requires sacrifice. Like my friends know, we're not hanging out on the weekends. Weekends are dedicated to my family. It might happen once every blue moon, but my weekends are for my family. You want to hang out with me? It's got to be during the week. And it has to be after my last class. That's it.
Makes sense. I want to switch gears and put you on what we like to call a hot seat. A little bit of rapid fire questions. Going to run business, personal, a little bit in between. And then we'll head into our third segment and wrap things up.
So they're up. I'm ready.
All right. So obviously, lifelong martial artist. What is the one martial arts movie you never get tired of watching?
Never get tired of watching. The Last Dragon.
That's a great movie.
Bruce Leroy. Bruce Leroy. I could watch that thing front to back, no matter how many times I watch it, and I say to myself, man, that's really cheesy. And so the 80s, but I love it. Oh man. I make reference to it all the time. I'll go up to my friends and be like, show enough. I just love that movie. And there's so many martial arts movies, obviously, I love, but that's probably the one I could watch all the time and never get tired of it.
What was a martial arts movie you watched with your dad?
Martial arts movie I watched with my dad. Oh, we will watch Bruce Lee. When my father started martial arts, this was the late 60s, early 70s. That was the era of Kung Fu Hero. That was the era of Bruce Lee. Shaw Brothers. That's what it was. So, and I would sit there and I would say to myself, here's my dad being enamored by these movies. He didn't even understand the language. He didn't know how to speak English. And he's watching these movies in English. So what does he watch? He's watching martial arts.
That's right.
And that's what got him involved in. So if we ever had a chance, we would watch those. So much Enter the Dragon. We would watch all those movies.
So, obviously, with that being in your background, what's the most important piece of martial arts equipment for you? What's one piece of equipment that you need to get through the day, excluding your uniform?
Oh wow, you caught me there because that was on the tip of my tongue. The most important thing is your uniform and your belt.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
Well,
That's all you need.
but excluding that,
a piece of equipment. I can't say my body, right? It's our mind.
no, because
It's got to be an exact piece.
yeah, because at the end of the day, what you were saying earlier, and this is why I'm saying it, you invested into the business, you updated the equipment, better experiences for your student. There's got to be one that you're like, man, I love working on this thing every day.
The simplest thing, a kicking pad. My kicking paddles have to be good. They have to make the right sound when one of my students hit it, punches it, kicks it, wherever it is, because that sound is going to give them the confidence that they're getting stronger, that they're getting faster. One of the first things I teach my instructors is how to hold it properly. Holding the target the wrong way, number one, you're going to hurt. You can hurt somebody or yourself. So you have to know how to hold it properly. Not a day goes by. There are days that go by that we won't touch the shields. We won't touch the expensive cowhide leather Iranian kicking shields. There are days we won't hold the mitts. There are days we won't even hit the weight masters or the backs, or we won't use the ladder, or we won't use the hurdles and so forth, and the box for the box jumps. But not a day goes by that we do not use kicking paddles.
And what's the kicking paddle of choice for you?
The kicking paddle of choice right now would have to be my BMA Best Martial Arts. So they're located out in California. They're especially the brand Muto. It's very high end, because when you have, like I said, so many students, imagine how many different students are hitting that target.
Yeah.
Now you go on the cheap stuff, like anything, you get what you pay for, 100%. Excuse me. So their products are very, very, strong, very, very durable. So that's probably my target of choice.
Okay. What was the last book you read?
The last book I read?
Mm-hmm.
Whispers of Wisdom. Which is by a very dear friend of mine, Master Anthony Graff, who was a guest on my podcast. I was so honored to have him on. He's a lifelong friend. I've known him since we were kids. And he wrote this book called Whispers of Wisdom, which is the art of storytelling that I feel is essential for not only a martial arts instructor, how to relate better to children, but also as a parent.
All right.
The art of storytelling, and just, it's so inspirational. Like, coming from him, seeing, where he grew up, for just a kid from Queens like me, kid from Queens, New York. To write his own book. Oh, that's on my bucket list too.
Writing a book.
100%.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a nice. There's another goalpost. There you go. What one piece of technology you can't live without?
I have to be honest, my phone. Because
Replaced a lot, huh?
because it has replaced a lot. And in today's day and age, you need social media to run your business.
You do.
You need it. Hey, there's no if and buts about it. And I say this to people all the time. I'm actually envious of people who don't have social media. Like my best friend Orlando, his line of work, I don't want to discuss them, but his line of work, one of the first things they told him was you can't have social media. And I was so jealous of it. Because if it was up to me, I wouldn't have it at all. I would be off the grid. It's just me. But with my doors open to the public, my life, in a sense, has to be open to the public too. As an instructor, as a business owner, you cannot run a business in 2025 without social media. You have to have it. So my phone is necessary, because people contact me through social media. I've signed up students through social media. Students have crazy. I watched my videos and got inspired to walk through my door. They see my podcast and they want to join my school. It's you need it. You need it. I hate to say it, but I have to have my phone.
Gotcha.
It has to be in the palm of my head.
When you wake up in the morning, obviously you have your espresso. What's the first thing you do after getting that espresso in the morning?
First thing I do, when nobody is watching, I'm about to give out a secret. My wife doesn't even see this happen. I do push-ups.
Oh, that?
Yeah. I go hide in a corner someplace.
I do.
And I bust out some push-ups to get my day going, to get my blood flowing. That's just the first thing I'll have. First thing I do is have my cup of coffee. That's right. But I will go start my first exercise of the day to get my body moving. I have to. I gotta get the motor going. It's very important to me.
Besides your dad, who do you view as hero?
The obvious answer, my mom. That's a woman who's been through a lot. That's a woman who persevered and held down the business after my father passed away. She's inspirational in so many ways. She is it's hard to even put into words what that woman does on a daily basis. She is the reason why I will never say I'm tired. Because see what she does. On 100-degree days in that kitchen doing what she loves. She's incredible. I would be embarrassed or ashamed of myself to say out loud that I'm tired. Even if I'm tired, I'm it in it, and I'll keep it to myself. I don't want the public ever hear me saying that because of that.
What's a non-negotiable to you when it comes to running your business?
A non-negotiable.
Yep. What's one thing you won't compromise when it comes to running your business?
I won't compromise the quality of my product. It's quality over quantity. That is something I won't compromise. I won't. How can I put it? I won't sell out. Just because everyone else does it, I'm not going to do it. What works for others might not work for me. And I'm okay with it. Does it mean I might lose a couple of dollars here and there? Yeah. But I'm not compromising my quality for nothing. I'm not going to cut corners just to make a few extra dollars on a uniform or a quality is number one to me, whether it's in my instruction, whether it's in my products like my uniforms and my equipment. Quality is number one.
What was the last thing you bought yourself?
Pair of Sears.
And the last thing you bought your kids?
Last thing I bought my kids? Man, I just bought my son braces yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, my son got braces.
Are they still a fortune? 'Cause I remember I was growing up, it was mouse payment.
Oh man, I might have to stand on the corner soon. Oh, that's quite. That's the last thing I bought. Yeah, my son, his last purchase was
Braces?
if it wasn't something associated with soccer or sports, yeah, for sure, braces. My daughter's got me wrapped around her finger. Man, Ashton Joe is a sucker when he comes to his daughter. Man, I'm scared to walk inside stores with my daughter. She'll point at something and I can't say much.
Oh, man.
And man, I bought her such nonsensical things over the years, and sometimes I whisper to her, "Don't tell mom, don't tell mommy I did this." You know, what can I do?
Yep.
She's my princess.
Don't feel bad. Mine got me at the Clawcade.
Oh, man, my pockets was hurting.
There you go.
What's a business milestone that you're proud of?
A business milestone that I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm. What's one that you're like, man,
Definitely when I hit 10 years of business.
that's a hell of a milestone.
But the crazy part, I hit 10 years of business when COVID hit.
Wow.
And this is the proudest thing I have to say about my business. I run a martial arts school different than probably everyone else. I'm a dying breed of martial arts schools that does not sign up students to contracts. Again, why do I do that? Because of my business model that quality comes first. So because quality comes first, I have the confidence that my students are going to keep coming back on a month-to-month basis. But when COVID hit, these students weren't locked into contracts. That's right. So I watched, and a lot of them left. There was almost overnight, I lost 75% of my business. I rolled up my sleeves. I adapted, as we said before, and I started teaching via Zoom. Little by little, that 75% I lost became 65, became 50, became 40, became 30. While this is going on, I'm seeing this martial arts school up the road from me go out of business. Another one less than half a mile away go out of business. This one went out of, this one didn't survive. That one didn't survive. Wow. And because I was able to pivot, I was able to adapt. And I hated every moment of it. I'm not gonna lie. Teaching via a computer screen was torture. But I made it work. And to me, being able to survive, that was a crowning achievement. And that most definitely a milestone. It happened in my year 10.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
This one's always a good one that I enjoy. You get chosen to speak to high school students. What's one thing you would impart on them as they're getting ready to enter into adulthood?
As they're getting ready to, number one, don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. Appreciate what you have and work for what you want. Nothing is going to be handed to you.
That's a great segue into the last one, which is reach one, teach one. Last bit of actionable advice for our listeners. What's one piece of advice you would give to anyone that's interested in embarking on the same path you did
and open their own martial arts school?
Definitely learn not just the psychology behind teaching, not just how to speak to parents, how to talk to children, but definitely take business courses, whether it's in accounting, whether it's in marketing. You have to understand who your target market is. You have to understand who is paying that tuition and why they're going to keep coming back and paying your tuition. You have to constantly open your mind to learn. You are a student first. And if you keep that mentality, learning is infinite. You're going to always learn. Don't ever feel you are too good for anyone. Go to a seminar, whether it's a martial arts seminar or a business seminar. Just listen, take notes. Be humble in your abilities, yet have all the confidence in the world that you could conquer anything. And I think that goes for all businesses, not just a martial art business. And be ready to do everything. Because if one person doesn't show up, the business still has to run. So if my instructors don't come to help me out one day, I know I'm more than capable of doing it on my own. It'll be difficult, but I could do it. I've proven that. And that's why all my instructors, they actually know that. They know that I'm capable of doing it all on my own. Be that person. And you'll gain the respect of everyone. And they'll look at you differently because that's going to make you a real leader. That's going to make you a real boss. You don't need to bark orders to get what you want done. Your actions alone make people do it without you even saying anything.
I mean, that's a great way to wrap things up. Master Joe, thank you for taking the time to chop it up with us and share the toys and tech of your trade. Where can people find you, keep up with you, find the Black Belt Way of Life podcast? Yeah. Anything else you want to share?
I had so much fun today. It's great to be in the hot seat, so to say. You know, it's humbling. It's humbling. You know, you go from teaching class to being a student. And that's what I did tonight, and I love it. I love it. Keeps me grounded. I'm not hard to find. You can look up the New York Black Belt Center at nybbc.org. You can find a Black Belt Way of Life wherever you consume all your podcasts, on YouTube, on Spotify, and wherever you consume your podcasts, you'll find a Black Belt Way of Life.
You got it.
I'm there. Google it.
There you go. Master Joe, thank you again for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
And that wraps up this week's episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade with Master Joseph Lupo Jr. To find out more about Master Joe, the New York Black Belt Center, the Black Belt Way of Life podcast, and many of the other things discussed in this week's episode, make sure to check out the show notes. As always, if you want to support this podcast, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you consume podcasts. And if you have a minute or two, drop a review. We'd really appreciate it. Toys and Tech of the Trade is part of the RageWorks podcast network, your one-stop shop for rants about gaming, entertainment, and the works. Visit us at RageWorksNetwork.com. Toys and Tech of the Trade was filmed on location at Press Record Studios in Westbury, New York, on Long Island. To find out more, visit us at PressRecordStudios.com.